The latest on that migrant caravan is now just south of our border. Mexico, well, they're holding a job fair for the migrants, and they're helping them file for asylum in Mexico. Come on in, former DHS Chief of Staff Chad Sweet. Chad, this is now Mexico's problem, right?
It is, and again, a tremendous credit to the administration, Secretary Nielsen and Secretary Mattis, for holding the line that has now forced the asylum seekers to stay on the Mexican side of the border. And what that's done, Stuart, is if you're seeking asylum, you have to have a credible claim of fear. All these asylum seekers now have to explain why their credible claim of fear couldn't be addressed by staying in Mexico as opposed to the United States. So that's really winnowed out of the vast majority of the applicants to only those true core few, and that's why we see the caravan dissipating. So this is a early Christmas present to the American people that should be greatly appreciated.
But Mexico has played a role in this. They must be cooperating if they're doing a jobs fair and allowing people to stay, get asylum in Mexico. They're playing their part as well, just as our president demanded.
It's a huge issue. When I was Chief of Staff at Homeland Security, we were always frustrated because they don't even have their own border patrol. And so I think what they saw when their own southern border was overwhelmed, we all saw the videos of that. They're now taking this very seriously, and I think it cannot be overstated how impressive, what a diplomatic coup it's been that Secretary Nielsen of DHS, working with the Mexican government, was able to get that kind of cooperation, especially from a new incoming administration in Mexico, the AMLO administration. That's one that ran on a platform that was, the rhetoric was a little bit anti-American. So to do this behind the scenes, it does show that the U.S. and Mexico are collaborating in a very close way.
Chad, it looks to me like President Trump won in the sense that most of the migrants did not get in, and there's no more migrant caravans on the way, at least not that I've seen or heard reported. That's another form of Trump win.
It's a huge deterrent signal. I mean, if you look at it, no one died. Yes, there was the use of tear gas, but again, non-lethal force to maintain and hold the line at the border. If they had not held the line at the border, we would have seen more encouragement, more waves of these types of incidents. And that's why we just saw this horrible death of this tragic death of this child, the 7-year-old. That's the kind of thing that's incented if we don't hold the line like this. So the compassionate, caring thing to do is hold the line. I come from a state that's a border state in Texas where we have a saying, you know, good fences make good neighbors. And I think the Mexican government appreciates that.
Now, what about the possible government shutdown if President Trump does not get the $5 billion that he wants for the wall? Is it worth shutting down the government for a war? What says Chad Sweet?
Well, if you look at it, the deterrent signal that just got sent could have been done much more effectively had that been in place. And what the president's asking for, when I was Chief of Staff, you know, look at what we did. When I came in, out of 6,000 miles of border, there were only 73 miles of fence. We built 670 miles of fence, but we did it talking to each of the border sector chiefs, the boots on the ground commanders, to tell us where they needed it. At $5 billion, the president is not asking for a sea to shining sea fence or wall. What he's asking for is strategically placed infrastructure. And so that's why I think in the end, if it's necessary, a shutdown could happen. But remember, 75% of the government's already funded through September of next year. So we're only talking about 25% of the government that could be affected. The president's leverage is better now than it will be in a year from now.
Well said. Chad Sweet, thank you very much for joining us, sir. We appreciate it. See you soon.
Thank you.
Yes, sir.